Welcome to our third studio session where we are going to jump into all things engagement. So in this session, we're not only going to talk about which muscles to engage, but we're also going to talk about the concept of energetic engagement, which is going to be engagement in a specific direction, right? So the body can be so complex because not only are kind of the muscle groups just tricky words and it's hard to understand when we can't see them, but it's also a matter of how do those muscles work best, right? Like, are we contracting that muscle or are we expanding that muscle? Are we using that muscle to stabilize? Or are we using that muscle to initiate? And so not only is it tough to know where the muscles are and what they do and how to isolate them individually, but also what is the action we're calling them to do, right? And one thing that we love talking about relative motion is energetic engagement, which is not only the muscles we want to use and what we're calling them to do, but also the energetic direction that we want those muscles to use. And that we want them to start to move in. Now, a lot of times when dancers are thinking of certain things, it's more like a mind block that's keeping them from getting a specific concept. And sometimes they're just thinking, okay, so if plie means to bend, and we talked about this later, then if I'm going to straighten it, we're going in the opposite direction, right? As opposed to if you're straightening your leg, it's not going to go forward and back, right? It's going to go deep up if our feet are planted. So say my feet are planted here. If I was going to straighten my leg, the back of the knee wants to lift up. So what I'm going to cue is the black panel drawing through that blue panel. Now, if my leg was suspended, so say my dancer is suspending their leg, instead of the black panel drawing up through the blue to straighten the leg, the black panel is going to draw out through the green to straighten the leg. So that energy is going to shoot out of the lower leg and through the foot to get that leg to straighten. So sometimes when we let the dancers think, oh, plie and stretch, they're just thinking this same direction every single time. And so today what we're going to dive into is what energetic engagement do we want our dancers to fully understand and how do we get them to do that, right? So the first thing is isolating muscle groups. One thing we love to say is, if we can get one muscle group to fire off at a time, one muscle or muscle group to fire off at a time, when that's the activator muscle, then you're going to have so much more power in your dancing. So if we can get our dancers to really understand that, the power in their dancing will be exponentially better. Now, a lot of times what's going to happen instead is even if our dancers know it, they want to fire out muscles or their body will instantly fire out muscles that are just really strong, right? So we'll see it all the time. Our dancers will be doing on the bar. We're like, okay, lift your leg off the bar. And all of a sudden that quad takes over and the rotation's gone. And we're like, you had it, and now the quad's going crazy. And that's because the quad is just naturally stronger, right? It's one of our pedestrian muscles that we use for walking, running, sitting, standing, walking upstairs, all the pedestrian things that we do every day. The quads are activating and firing up. They're used to being in charge. The inner thigh, not so much, right? So how can we get our dancers to isolate the inner thighs or isolate the hamstrings or isolate the tibialis anterior to really power up these muscle groups faster and to really reach higher technique levels quicker? So let's talk about the hamstrings first. Now, a lot of times with our dancers, and maybe you've seen this, they're going to do their passe, their hip flexor, right? Because they're kind of gripping everything in those joints. So we're talking about joint expansion a couple weeks ago, right? Gripping everything in the hip. Now everything's tight here, which makes the hip bone lift. Now we have our dancer who's a little tilted, right? What we want to do is we want to help our dancers understand how to fire up. And this is just one example of how we can get that energetic engagement to get our dancers doing the things we kind of want them to see themselves to do. So bring our dancers to the bar, and we're going to have our leg just plants on the bar, right? We're going to relax that leg, and let's have our dancer put their right hand, I'm using my right leg, we're going to have them put their right hand underneath that blue panel. So this is going to be the blue panel of the hamstring, and the right hand's going to go underneath. Now from there, all I want them to do is try to pull the bar with the bottom of their leg towards them. Feel that hamstring fire up and release. Shake it out. All right, and we're trying to get the hamstring to fire up without the quads getting heavy there, right? So just the underneath muscle pulling that foot towards, right? And here we go, one more time, using the blue panel to try to pull the foot towards you. It's so fired up right now. And then release. Good, try the other side. I would suggest doing this 4 to 8 times just so you really feel not only the fire, but also feel it start to build that endurance. All right, I'm going to tilt a little bit so we can see even better from the side. So left hand under the left leg, feeling that blue panel of the hamstring, because that's what you want to activate and keep the hips square. Opposite hand stabilizing the bar if you have a mobile bar like this one, or if you're at the bar, it won't need to stabilize as much. Okay, so from here, think about that blue panel reaching, and we're going to try to pull that bar towards us without really letting it move. There it is. And release. Good, shake it out. Make sure the quads aren't heavy. And try it one more time. Hands on the blue panel. Reach and pull towards you. Feel it fire up, feel it activate. If you have dancers, walk around, have them feeling that fire, feeling that strength, and release. Good. Now, we're going to start to work on our inner thigh, okay? So our inner thigh muscle, we want to feel it tightening up without the entire upper leg tightening up, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to lay flat on our side. And so right now, I'm laying on my right side, and I'm going to put my left leg slightly in front and turn it out. So the heel can kind of press into the floor, and I can soften. So make sure that nothing is gripping, everything's soft here. Now, we're going to dig the heel into the floor, and we're going to try to feel the tightness of the green panel, right? Especially where the green's close to meeting that blue. Now, feel the purple, make sure it's nice and relaxed. If it's not, let that leg go. Shake it out and start again. Now, this one is much harder to feel than the hamstring one at the bar. So I want you to take your time with your dancers, let them know, like, this one's going to be pretty tough. And as the exercise goes on, it's even tougher. So right now we have resistance into the floor. It's a little bit easier to get the leg to activate when we have resistance in the floor. Now what we're going to do is we're going to keep that activation right there in the green panel. As we draw, we're going to dig down with the heel and draw the leg up to what's close to what their posture would be. Now, trying to hold on to that engagement, which is hard when we let go of the resistance, keeping the green panel engaged, reach and stretch into that passe. Is it still activated? Still working? No gripping in the purple? And release down. We're going to do that one more time together, and then we'll go on the other side. So if you don't feel it right away, or if you felt it, but the second you went into the passe, it kind of released, that is just something you have to build up. That's just endurance. That's letting those muscles understand how to engage by themselves. And if you feel like your inner thigh stayed engaged, but the quadriceps started taking over when you lifted the foot, that's totally normal too. It's just something we have to untrain because the quads are typically so much stronger than the inner thigh to begin with. So don't get down on yourself. That's just part of the process. All right, digging the heel into the floor, feeling the second you dig, you should be able to feel that green panel. Digging down, now start to draw up. There it is. Make sure it's on fire, on fire. Make sure this is not continuously go up. No crazy purple, all green. Stretch it, keep that green alive and active. Keep it alive. Now stretch that supporting leg, turn it all out, find that awesome rotation for yourself, and relax. All right, other side. So we're going from a pretty relaxed position to a fully engaged position. All right, here we go. Lying on our opposite side, I'll be lying on my left. If you started on this side, lie on your opposite side. Taking that top leg, and we're just gonna plant it in front and dig that foot into the floor, soft bend. Now, everything's relaxed, everything's loose, nothing's gripping. Now I'm gonna dig into the floor, and that instantly brought my green panel into an engaged position. Now dig as I draw up. The more you dig down, the more that green panel is gonna fire up because resistance allows that to happen. Keep shaking out that purple, make sure the purple's not gripping. Make sure the green is tight, especially right where it's about to meet the blue. And now start to lift off the floor, maintaining that engagement, maintaining and stretch both legs. Make sure we're fully active and engaged here, and bring it back down. And we're gonna do one more, so shake that out. Soft bend, make sure everything's relaxed. If you're with your dancers, walk around. and make sure that they can really relax before they get the exercise started. Because once it starts, that purple panel wants to take over. And even a lot of times that purple panel in the back, the glutes want to take over. So we're trying our best to keep everything kind of neutral except for our inner thighs. Now dig down, feel that green panel, fire it up, feel everything else, try to release, nice and fiery here. Dig down, extend, engage, and start to draw it up. Can you keep it maintained? Can you maintain it? And turn everything out, really present the green panels forward. See if you're still fired up here, and relax. I recommend, our whole company, when we work on things, we recommend, okay, see if you can break down what we need our dancers to do by the most important muscle for them to understand in order to do it. So if we were working pirouettes turned out, it would be really important for them to understand that green panel engagement to really stabilize the turnout position on both sides. If they were working pirouette to pirouette, it'd be really valuable for them to understand that green engagement in order to not get, one hip falling off, right? So think not only what muscle group would be the best, but as you notice in these exercises, we also put the dancers in a position so they could fully relax and then engage just that muscle by itself. So if you were working, something that would be a Devon extension, you might find a totally different way to engage one of those muscle groups. Or if you were working arabesque, you might need to find a totally different way to engage the muscle groups, because it's not just about the firing up of the muscles, but remember, we're talking about energetic engagement. So also the position and direction you want the dancers to understand. So one more thing I want to kind of talk about, because we want to talk about also straightening the back of the knee when we're going into just supporting leg positions, right? And so a lot of dancers will think, like we talked about briefly earlier, they'll think about straightening the knee as being forward as a bend, back is straight. And that brings our dancers a lot into that reverse bend, that hyperextension. So what I want us to think about here is just allowing the dancers to relax their energy down and finding a lot of space in the back of the knee. So thinking about this being the supporting leg, I want the space in the back of the knee joint to extend down to the heel. So thinking about the block of the knee extending down forward. Yeah, so the block of the knee is just like falling almost down and is expanding the back of the knee joint. Now, as we go into our releve, I want everything from that purple panel of the glute to pull the leg up. So we're fully expanded in the back of the knee. The glute panel is going to draw that glute panel up, draw the knee panel up, draw that green panel up, and reach us up to the sky, right? And then sinking, letting everything wash down, finding space below. I'm not putting weight on this right leg. I'm just letting it kind of graze the floor. So have your dancers not push off that opposite leg. Now, expand from the top, lifting up until our dancers are fully engaged up, and then resting back down. Having our dancers do that a few times on each side. Now, if they complain any about the knee, pressure in the front of the knee, pressure in the back of the knee, then that energy is sitting on that joint, right? And so you want to think bringing that energy off the joint, washing that energy away from the joint, drawing that energy off the joint, washing that energy away. So at no point do we want our dancers just to sit in that knee joint, right? Let's try the other side. So taking the right foot for me, on the other side, we can just graze the floor with that, what would be our working leg, washing the energy from the back of the knee down through the heel. We'll feel a really intense calf stretch here. Now, taking the purple of the glute panel, drawing it up to lift up the glute panel, lift up the knee panel, lift up the calf panel, and then start to lower and sink and sink and sink. We're going to do that one more time. So starting to draw the purple, lifting the blue, knee, calf, and fully extend through the back of the knee, and now reach back down. Now, one thing I like, and we always stand by this with our company, is wearing the Apollo shocks. And the reason we say this is because Apollo is built, and it's hard to see really close up on me, but Apollo is built with their own panels. And so it's really cool. So the metatarsal point has a panel, And then the heel has a pivot. So when we're trying to get our dancers to understand really expanding through the ankle and foot, we also talk about stacking the heel panel directly over the metatarsal point panel. That allows them to have another goal. We always talk about measuring and having goals, but not only that is this will give you compression and support. So when your dancers are working to the feet, it helps to stabilize this position. So especially like any level of dancer, but especially as you're trying to do lifting and stacking, so the dancers have something to right with that like brave, but they're really trying to find that full releve. Apollos will not only stabilize the position, but they'll help them visualize and measure that position. So we really recommend that. So this is talking about energetic engagement. The last little thing I want to talk about and really address and jump into is the idea of the rotation. A lot of dancers don't understand how to find their psoas. And if we're in the classroom with dancers, you're like, oh, where's your psoas? A lot of them just are like a look of a fear or like deer in headlights, right? They're like, please don't pick me to explain this, right? Because it's so complex. And even a lot of teachers are like, don't pick me on this question, please. And so it's hard for dancers to understand, like connecting to the top of the femur and wrapping through the hip bone, right? And like all the stuff that the psoas has to do, but they have to understand psoas engagement in order to get gorgeous all-acicon lines, right? Especially the ones that are 90 and above, because the psoas has to activate. So for us, we like to cue the blue panel, right? And so what I'm going to show you is just, if the dancers are here, this is a lot of times where a dancer is putting their second position. And so what's happening is it's gripping in the hips, see my hips even wanting to lift a little bit. So for the psoas engagement, we want our dancers to think about presenting that blue panel, right? So if I was going to plie, it would be presenting that blue panel forward to really start to activate that spiral and wrapping action of what needs to happen at the top of the hip. So what we like to do with our dancers is we like to get them in a position where we can measure if they can feel that psoas, and in a position where gravity is not like playing a huge part in their placement. And so bringing our dancers to the wall, you can be in this position and then try to get our dancers to understand expansion of the hips and rotation. So this would be presenting that blue panel to the ceiling, right? And like trying to compress that supporting like that. And coming from different elements here where the blue panel has to engage to get that out. Or we can bring our dancers, whoa, right? And so what's going to happen is as they lift and present, they're going to try to show that blue panel, but that, with the nice posture, that's going to start to spiral so that dancers understand that energetic engagement as well. So anything that you can do from a butterfly position where they can present more of the blue panel, or from a supine position when they're on their back and you can start to present a blue panel there. There's a million exercises. We won't dive into them all today, but just jumping into not just understanding a muscle, but understanding the direction that that muscle needs to go and being able to measure it. So anytime you're doing work, you can break it down into a way that your dancers can begin to ask themselves questions, get curious, and measure. You're going to see your dancers getting those moments so fast, the fire, the spark, the aha, so they see. You'll see that happening so fast, and we're so excited and we really encourage that. So good luck with these exercises we worked on today. Share them with us, let us know how they're going, and then we'll see you next time for empowerment. So we're going to add some strength and muscle to these exercises, right, into these lines. And we'll see you there.